Welcome to our next episode of
Fandom
Family
Chats.
This is a production of Family Fan Clubs on Facebook. You can find us all over Facebook. You can find us all over social media under Fandom Family Chats. Look us up, get dialed in, get plugged in, and get ready to listen to some crazy people talk crazy stuff. Hey guys, welcome back to FFC. I'm Maureen.
I'm Amanda.
And today we are bringing you another Netflix review. We are talking documentaries, mockumentaries, docu-series, anything in the documentary sort of realm. Although we're only going over 4 today, Netflix has so many. And what I love about Netflix,
so many.
that when you watch like even one documentary, it starts saying, well, because you watch this, here are all the other documentaries that you can watch. And so there's a ton more.
And that's all I'm watching lately because I like turned on Wham. And then like ever since I watched Wham, they keep like throwing new ones at me.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, that looks good.
Yep.
Oh, that looks good. And now I'm like completely
stuck in a documentary loop.
I'm such a like TV show person. And now I'm like watching all these documentaries. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like I love my true crime true crime documentary. I'm always watching them. But now I'm watching all these other different type of documentaries, which I don't know. Doing the podcast kind of forced me to do the documentaries, and now I'm kind of loving them.
Yes.
It opened my mind. So everybody listening.
That's what I like about these Netflix reviews, is because it forces all of us to watch something that we don't like. Jeanette frequently says, I don't watch movies. Well, you're going to now because you have to review them.
Yeah.
This is our life now, especially now that the writers are on strike with the actors. This is our life right now.
Yeah, this is about to get hard for us all. So
I don't know the whole story of that, but I know that this is why they're on strike. And we at FFC, we want to be bold about saying that we stand with the actors and we stand with the writers, and we think that they should be paid more fairly. Their job should be protected like it would be in any other company. It should be protected.
Yep.
So on that note, we're going to keep bringing you Netflix reviews until they get what they deserve and they're getting paid appropriately for their work and for the work that they have put into past projects. We're going to keep giving you reviews of things that you can currently watch. And it kind of seems counterintuitive to be like, hey, watch this Netflix show. But I mean, we're going to watch something, but hopefully Netflix doesn't make any money off of new things, which is where they get the bulk of their things from. So that's our hope. So we're going to keep bringing you this stuff for the time being. And it's not just going to be Netflix either. We have an Amazon Prime one coming at you the end of August. We're going to be going over that. So keep an eye out for those. Today, as we said, we're talking documentaries. We're going to start with Pamela, A Love Story. Now, I was interested in this because Pamela Anderson, that's, my generation. I never watched Baywatch because I wasn't into that sort of thing, but everyone knew who Pam Anderson was, and everyone knew about Pam Anderson and Tommy Lee. Everybody, whether or not you like them, whether or not you listen to Motley Crue, you knew who they were and you knew why they were significant. I'm going to read the little synopsis of it. It says, follows the life of pop culture icon Pamela Anderson, including never before seen archival footage and personal journals. That was really cool. I think so. Let's kind of walk through. Now, this is not going to be like a normal review where we give you characters, and that's because there aren't any characters in these documentaries. It's a documentary. Pamela Anderson was kind of the main character, and she wasn't a character. She was herself.
And she lives with her mom.
She does it in Canada.
I never knew that. I would never think Pamela Anderson's living in Canada in a quaint little house.
That threw me for a loop. Yeah.
Like, I loved this documentary. I have like very little left to go. I haven't completely finished it yet, but I'm going to. I want to. It's very good.
Yes, it's good. And honestly, one of my favorite things was the journals that she kept throughout her entire life. Like, she went back to before she was even famous. She kept all those journals, and she had them in all these tote boxes stored away at her house, listening to the things that she felt and the way that she worked throughout the industry. And it was kind of sad because I remember when Barbed Wire came out, and I was guilty, certainly, being like, that's a Pam Anderson movie. Oh, geez, can't take her seriously. And that was what I thought of her at the time. And what a shame. What a shame that she was pushed. I mean, I think she got a reduction, but she did originally enhance herself. And that set her on a specific path that she couldn't seem to break away from. And it almost caused like this depression, and then people stealing her private videotapes and not giving back. And then they even took this guy to court, which I didn't know, and they lost. How do you lose that court case?
I know,
did you
that
remember
was
what the
insane.
judge said?
No.
That she brought it on herself because she was a Playboy model. So she didn't have any right to say, no, you can't do this because this is the career that you chose for yourself.
Now, try to do that today.
There's no way.
There she would win that every day if that had happened today.
Hopefully.
Sadly, that was the world back then. And was it right? Should have been? No, it's not an excuse. It shouldn't have happened. But also, I'm not shocked.
No.
It's just the same thing about, dress provocatively and you're bringing it upon yourself. It's not right.
I agree.
It's the way the world was back then. And yes, she has gotten a breast reduction at her age now. And I think she's so beautiful. Like this whole documentary, she has no makeup on.
That's one thing I loved.
And I'm like, you are just gorgeous.
And she's humble.
So humble.
And she's shy, which I didn't. That surprised me a little bit.
She's always kind of been.
But that surprised me because growing up, I didn't watch any of her shows really, but I knew what guys thought of her. And I knew that I knew that she married Kid Rock. I knew that she married Motley Crue, the Tommy Lee. I knew about their tape that came out. Like I knew all these things about her.
Yeah.
But I didn't care to watch her stuff. I didn't care to watch the interviews because it was Pam Anderson. I don't care.
Yeah.
And all she was famous for at the time was her chest and her body shape. And that wasn't my thing. So I didn't care. So it surprised me how she would talk about how people viewed her body and how people viewed her as a human being, even how sad she would get and how shy she was to talk about when she first started getting recognized for her body. And she even said at one point, I knew I was pretty, but it's not like that's what she wanted to be known for. She was hoping it would get her in the door, but she didn't want to be known for that. And that's all she was known for.
Yeah. This is exactly. I mean, that's how most people, I feel like, try to get into that business is by their looks, because that's as vain as it sounds. That is what sells. I mean,
stupid.
Are there actors that are not quote unquote attractive to the naked eye that we absolutely love? I will never name names. Yes, there are. But that's because we've learned the personalities.
Yeah, exactly.
But to get your foot in the door, honestly, it's easier to be pretty.
Yep.
In the world.
And that's not even from a consumer standpoint. That is from an executive standpoint. That's what they look for, a certain aesthetic in a person. If you can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt how good you are at your craft, then it might not matter how you look, but they're going to try to dress you up pretty. I mean, that's why there's makeup teams that follow people everywhere and hair teams and stylists. And I'm not knocking any of those professions. I think those professions are cool. My daughter wants to be one of those, and that's totally fine. But there is this certain pressure that you have to look a certain way, be a certain way, or you'll be out, especially then. Like this is before the Me Too movement. This is before Harvey Weinstein. Like this, I mean, not before him, but before we knew really what he was.
Yeah.
Back then it was, if you do not maintain this sexual character, this perfect physique, this over sexualized lifestyle, then you will amount to nothing in this business. If that's what you want, go ahead. And so there was this pressure for her. And to watch, that was my favorite thing about it, was that one, she was makeupless. I love that. She was just herself. You find this whole other side to her that I personally never, ever knew about, because all I knew was what the media and Hollywood told me about her was she has a big chest. She's got a perfect body and she's a pinup. That's all I knew. So I didn't care.
I knew she would. I mean, pretty much all I knew is Baywatch, her running on the beach, red swimsuit, blonde hair, big boobs, and she had made a sex tape with Tommy Lee.
Yep, that's all I knew.
Oh, and she has barbed wire.
Commercial success that was.
That's about all I knew of Pamela Anderson. But like you said, getting to like really know her in this documentary was really cool.
And watching her with her sons.
She's a great mom. Just like I think her mom was a great mom.
Yes. And even the way her son stood up for her when they were watching certain parts of the documentary and she had to leave the room, and her son was so mad on behalf of her.
Yeah.
Your kids will not be protective of you and fight for you if you don't love them well.
No.
They'll be afraid of
Really,
you.
when they're an adult. They don't
Mhm.
have to have any part of your
Exactly.
life. When
They
they're
might be
adult.
afraid of you and they might be timid around you and they might say things, but they will not actually authentically be protective or care for you if you do not love them well. And Pamela Anderson loves her. You can say whatever you want about her. She loves her boys well. And with Tommy Lee, like, she didn't want that divorce. Yeah, they got married quickly. Like, I was surprised how quick they got married.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
what was it, the week they met, they got married?
Yeah, it was like a week or two.
Like, whoo, that's bold.
I know.
I don't recommend that, but that's bold. And even in that, like, you kind of think, oh, they just look at, he's just a partier and she's just this. That's obviously why they divorced. That was kind of like the mindset that she never came out and said, this is what Tommy has done to me. This is what my life was. And that she never said any of that. She kept it to herself. She could have. She had the ammunition to go out and put Tommy Lee on blast. And she didn't for the sake of her boys.
She didn't on the sake of her boys. And again,
Tommy a little bit, I think.
I think she was afraid of Tommy.
I don't think she was.
And I feel like, I mean, let's go back to 90s, early 2000s, when men held a lot more power.
Yeah, that's true.
And really, in that kind of setting in the entertainment industry, Tommy Lee, I think, would have a lot more power than Pamela Anderson.
Yeah.
When it came to the industry.
Especially because Motley Crue had way more clout than Pam Anderson did.
Yeah. And she was probably afraid.
Yeah. She was seen as an object. Afraid.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I understand why she kept quiet. I hate it for her. You know, it's not right, but I understand why she did.
Yeah, absolutely. And she had also said, I mean, even the relationship she has with Tommy Lee now, for her, she is a human being that is able to forgive. And that is not easy to do. I mean, that's what we're called to do biblically, but that is not what it's not easy for us to forgive anybody. And she now has a relationship with Tommy Lee that she actually like hangs out with him and his wife. And his wife tells Tommy Lee all the time, you were an idiot for letting her go. Like, that's the relationship she has with her ex-husband and his current wife. That speaks to her as a human being.
Oh, it absolutely
so much more substance than we were ever led to believe, which is, it's a disservice to her, honestly. And I love that we got to see her go on Broadway. Like, how freaking cool. Did you not get to that part yet?
I haven't, but I saw, I've seen a little bit, like a clip of it on TikTok I saw. So I know what you're talking about. It
was the perfect role for her because it was Chicago. So it's like women scantily clad and doing stuff on a stage. But because it's on Broadway, it gives her more cred. It gives her more substance. People automatically say, well, Broadway is not easy no matter what the role is. So she's got to be something. And she did great. She was so adorably nervous before she went and auditioned, while she was reading the script before she went in there. And she hit it out of the park.
She did.
But she didn't think she could. And it was an overcoming story. And I really, really liked that about it.
Absolutely. I loved this documentary. Like I said, I still got a little bit of time left. Very little, though. Do you have any complaints?
Yeah. Well, I think overall it's great. And I remember putting this in the chat, my complaint about it. I only have one complaint, really, because how can you complain with a documentary? You know, what you're getting kind of right off the bat. And that leads into my complaint, because I probably, as you guys said, probably should have figured this was going to be in there. I did not expect the nudity. I did not like it. I was uncomfortable with it. And I thought it would be like a family-friendly documentary where, there might be some swearing, but I wasn't thinking Pam Anderson, Playboy model. I was just thinking Pam Anderson, I'm interested to know what her life is about. And then there was like this full body nudity. Like, oh my God, what is happening right now? And I was very, very thrown off by it. And I was made very uncomfortable. And I didn't, honestly, by the way she was speaking in the documentary, by the way she was talking about her struggles with what the media and people had put as her image for so long, and that wasn't who she was. She was more than this bimbo that they put her out to be. She was more than this body that they put her out to be. I didn't think it was necessary to show the full nudity stuff. I mean, obviously we didn't see full nudity, but we saw enough nudity that I was like, okay, I'm fast forwarding through it. So I don't even know what she said in most points, because I was like, I don't feel comfortable watching this.
Me. Obviously.
I should have expected
we have
it.
different mindsets when it comes to this, but I kind of took it as this was her way of being in control of
Could be.
her body and what you see, instead
Yeah.
of her just everybody taking pictures or saying move like this, do this. She got to kind of choose what images
Mm-hmm.
were out there in her own documentary. So I kind of liked it in that sense. That's how I took it watching
Yeah, I can see that. I think I was just naively hoping for like
it.
I don't know.
Hey
I don't know what
man,
it's. I was just hoping
it
for
looks good.
no. I mean, well, it was from the 1990s, but I was just very much hoping for. I actually I wasn't even hoping for no nudity. I just turned it on thinking, okay, this is a documentary on Netflix. There's not going to be nudity. This is safe to watch, and for me personally, it was not safe to watch at those points. Thankfully, it was only like 2 spots in
Yeah.
the very beginning because it was when she was talking about what she was going through. And I get that that's probably what she was doing. It was just for me personally, I did not enjoy seeing that. And I'm not saying that anybody else enjoyed looking at it, which I'm sure there are people who did, but that's not even my point. It's just that I think it's a personal preference of whether or not you're comfortable with nudity. And I am 100% not comfortable with any nudity on my TV screens at all in any capacity. So that's just my personal preference with it. And that is literally, if that's my only complaint about this, I think that's pretty good because it had no bearing on who she is as a person. I actually really, really enjoyed seeing her as a human being for the first time.
Same. I have no complaints, but like I said, it's kind of hard to give a complaint over a documentary.
You kind of know what you're getting into.
Yeah, I loved it. I give it an A.
I think I will give it a B only because it wasn't something I could watch around my kids. And it wasn't something I could feel comfortable watching by myself.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I'm gonna break it into 2 parts. The beginning of it, okay, those 2 scenes, I'll give it C. The rest of it, the whole back half of it, beyond her years as a pinup, I would give that an A. Because that's when you really got to the meat of who Pam Anderson was. And she's smart. She's funny. She's humble. I felt so sad for her at times because she admitted that sometimes she played up to that image because she didn't feel like she couldn't do anything other than that. And I felt so sad for this woman who had to grow up, and she grew up in the spotlight in this way, and she didn't want to. And I just felt so empathetic towards her in that. So I would give the rest of it an A because it's Pam Anderson. If you are listening to this, Pam Anderson is more than what everyone painted her to be all those years.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I loved it. I'm glad she did it.
Me too. And I think can you imagine how therapeutic that was for her to be in control? And there was even one point where she said to them, don't put that in there. And they left that part in there.
Yeah.
I think they left her saying, don't put that in there. And then they didn't show what she didn't want them to show. So I think it was nice for them to leave her saying, don't use that, because we could see her voice is being heard. And she got final say over this whole thing. So it was
awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
And we've been telling you this whole Netflix series that we are honest with you about our opinions. Okay. And I just want to preface this next one with that.
Yes.
We're going to move on to another. It's a mockumentary, our only mockumentary on the earth. Nope. Our only mockumentary on the list is what I meant to say. The name of the show is Cunk on Earth. The synopsis says it follows Philomena Cunk as she comically tells the story of our greatest inventions and asks experts hard-hitting questions about humanity's progress. So that's what this one is about. And it's a mockumentary. And I was like, oh, this looks really good. My husband had mentioned something about it. He's like, oh, have you heard about this? I heard this coming out. I heard it's supposed to be good. So Mandy did not watch it. And I'm not even mad about it because
you were saying how bad it was.
It
was
awful.
Kind of on the bottom of my list to watch if I got through everything else.
Don't. It was so awful. So in college, I studied history. That's one of the things I studied. I was a history minor and I was an English major. And so I adore history. You can get me to watch anything on castles, on any sort of history thing. I will eat it up. So I was really excited about this. And I thought, oh, great, she's going to tell it in a funny way. I made it through 2.5 episodes before I was like, my brain is so angry at me right now. And it feels like it's dying slowly. I cannot do this anymore. It was so awful. And this may be some people's cup of tea, but her comedy in this was almost like insulting the real historians that she was talking to. And you could tell that, and maybe they were pretending they were getting frustrated. Maybe that's what they think is funny. I don't know. But the historians that she was speaking to seemed to be legitimately and rightfully disgusted at times and angry at how she was questioning them about things. She would question them things about like sexual organs and how it was just awful. I honestly have blocked out a lot of what it was because I was so excited about this one because I love history, but I also love comedy, and I love British comedy usually because it's so dry and deadpan.
Yeah.
There was nothing funny about this. It was borderline offensive throughout.
Oh,
I have nothing good to say about it at all. So I don't even have favorites to give you. She's a character because I don't think this is really how Philomena, I don't even know if that's her real name, but I don't think this is who she is as a person. I think this is a character she's putting on for this mockumentary. But it was just, she would go to these beautiful places, these deeply rooted historic places that have so much rich and wealth in their knowledge and in what they have to say because of their history. And it was like she just peed all over it. Like it just, it was such a disappointment. And maybe that's why it was so bad for me, because I had such high hopes for the humor and the history together. But it's I have no other word other than awful. Work. It was awful. I hated it. And
that sucks.
This again, I have a certain personality, and there are certain things I don't abide by. I don't like a lot of things that the world likes sometimes. And so this was just, maybe it's somebody's cup of tea. Maybe this humor is funny to some people, and I'm sure it is because it's made it on Netflix. I don't think it's being renewed though. Of course, Netflix isn't really announcing anything being renewed right now because of what's going on. So maybe it will be, but I don't think it got the numbers. I don't think it was what they thought it was going to be. I don't think it was even what they billed it as, because the previews they showed were actually kind of funny. I didn't see any of that. And I watched 2.5 episodes where I was like, I cannot physically do this anymore without wanting to harm myself.
So since we've never had a very terrible review, and I haven't seen it.
Teen Wolf, the movie.
I wasn't on that though.
Oh.
I didn't even finish it. I couldn't get through that thing. I'm not finishing it either. Don't even try to make me go watch that again. I'm still mad at you people.
Me? I had nothing to do. That was probably really loud for you guys. I'm really sorry. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it again. Me? I had nothing to do that. I was also forced to watch it. Thank you very much. It was Jeanette's idea. I will fully throw her under the bus for that one. It was like 3 hours too. 3 hours of my life wasted on that piece of garbage.
Ugh.
Sorry to all the actors who put their time and effort into that. We love you. We just didn't, and it wasn't even the acting. It was just the writing was it was just bad. Anyway, sorry. So since we didn't have, what were you going to say?
I was just going to read. I went and saw what the reviews were.
Like, where are you finding these reviews?
IMDb. I just went to IMDb. Oh, okay. That's where I usually,
they can go in and edit those, right?
Yeah, which it got an 8.1 out of 10.
From who? Yeah, they got a really high score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Did they? Yeah. I think it's like good in like Britain humor.
Yeah, but I like British humor. I love British humor, and this was just not it.
Much. I know I wouldn't like it because I don't really like British humor. I like funny humor. It makes British humor makes me uncomfortable.
British humor is not funny. I only like the funny humor.
It's just very dry.
That's my favorite.
Dry humor makes me uncomfortable a little bit. I'm like, are they serious or are they like? I don't like conflict. Like any kind of conflict.
I totally understand that. See, now I'm the type of person who, like, one of my favorite, okay, this is gonna sound weird, this sentence as it comes out of my mouth, and I know it's gonna sound weird, but go with me here. Just okay, track with me. One of my favorite things about getting cancer was how uncomfortable I could make people.
Oh yeah.
It was my favorite thing. And it was just I was just using dry humor. I would yell, "I have cancer." And I'm obviously kidding. I mean, I wasn't, but I didn't really feel that. So like that's my kind of thing. I love it. I love that kind of humor. This fell short because it felt like it's not the typical British humor of just being dry and witty. It was arrogant and it was offensive and it was pushing that envelope of acting as if none of this is a joke. It's all very, very real. Usually with the dry humor, it's you can tell, at least I can tell, when it's a joke and when it's not. And this was, I'll read you one of the because it did get a really high ranking on Rotten Tomatoes. So try this out, guys. I might be in the minority of people who hated this, but the Sarah Ward, she reviewed it and she said Morgan's performance is a marvel and a perceptive portrait of couldn't care less arrogance, ignorance, and certainty that plays as an easy but still smart caricature of a growing attitude prevalent online today. That I completely agree with, but that to me that's not a good thing. I get that if you're playing a caricature of a growing attitude online today, I can absolutely see that play out. However, that's not how it is in the show. It's not like she's doing something of someone online. She's actually going to these places, talking to these people and saying this. But I agree. Couldn't care less arrogance, ignorance, and certainty. And she was a caricature of online, but it just wasn't. That's why it wasn't funny to me. Someone else said, the too short 5-episode season will surely send you running to YouTube for more Philomena Cunk. And thankfully the internet provides. So it honestly, the rating it got on Rotten Tomatoes, 100%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Like everything you've told me, I don't think it's my cup of tea, but I guess if you like that humor, go check it out.
Exactly. Some of you, so I'm willing to bet that some of you really like, there's over 200 reviews and it got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I might be in the minority. I hated it. I hated every moment of it. I felt like my soul was dying. And
I'm not going to try it.
No. And honestly, my competitive nature, the fact that I got 2.5 episodes in and I just found out it's only 5 episodes.
Now you want to go finish it?
Kinda. Want is not the word that I would use. I do not want to go finish it, but now I'm like,
feel compelled.
Yes, I could. There's only 2.5 episodes. I can finish that. I should finish that. I don't know if I can.
If you don't enjoy it, don't finish it.
Yeah,
there's so many. There's
only
so much
2.5
stuff
episodes
I've never
left.
finished.
Okay, here's what you guys don't know about our group. Maybe I don't know. You might if you're in our groups. Amanda is the spearhead for all of our shows that we have groups for, all the shows that we watch, and Jeanette helps in that. But Amanda kind of takes the top spot for this is good. Get off your butts and go watch it, or get on your butts and start watching it.
Usually they don't listen to me until like years later, and then they're like,
that is not true.
This show is so good.
That is.
And I'm
not
like,
true.
yeah. Who's watched SWAT?
I am trying to, but I have all these Netflix things to watch in front of it. And honestly,
Nobody's
David,
SWAT.
I am. I actually like SWAT. My husband likes it too. And as soon as we finish Parks and Rec, which we only have 8 more episodes total to watch, because we've never seen Parks and Rec before. I only saw parts of the first season.
I haven't either.
What? Okay, I will watch SWAT if you watch Parks and Rec.
I've watched a few seasons.
Watch Parks and Rec.
I like it. I just need to get through it.
Watch it.
I just restarted The Office though.
Switch to Parks and Rec, and I will finish SWAT.
Okay.
Promise. So I am clearly of a different opinion than all of the people who reviewed it on Rotten Tomatoes, because 100% of their reviews said, woohoo, good show, of the 235 reviews. And I am over here saying, don't ever turn on the pile of crap. But so try it if you like that kind of, if you like humor that is offensive, if you like humor that is going really, really hard in the ignorant, arrogant category, this is your show. And I kind of want to see some other things that Philomena Cunk is in, because I'm wondering if this is the character she is all the time, because the clips that I saw, they were genuinely funny before I watched it. So give it a shot. I hated it. You might love it. Who knows? But one that I did surprisingly, one that I loved was Wham.
Wham.
Why did I love that documentary?
It was really good. I watched it while making dinner. I didn't like sit down and like catch every single word they said, but I know Wham. Like my aunt was Wham was a little bit before my time. Okay. So I wasn't really around when they were like big and all the hype. My
To be
aunt
fair,
loved Boy George.
they were a little before my time too. I just want to make that very clear to our listeners. Sorry, continue. I just wanted everyone to know that I'm not 50 years old yet.
My aunt is, and she loved George Michael. Now, this is how much of Wham I did not know. I had no idea that George Michael was in Wham. I thought there were two separate things. I thought there was Wham, and I thought there was Boy George. I knew of both.
Wait. Did you just call George Michael Boy George? Because those are two very
Did I?
different people. Yes, you did.
I didn't mean Boy George.
Boy George is Culture Club.
I think I've said it twice now, and I don't know why I keep saying it.
I mean, similar stories. 80s band out of Britain that went off on a solo career.
That's
Both
true.
George.
That's true. All right, and I love 70s and 80s bands. I don't know why.
80s music.
I like more rock than pop back then. So it's like I know like every single song that came on that documentary, I could sing heart, like word for word by heart.
Mm-hmm.
I know the music. I'm just not very good about knowing
What band has done it.
who's in what band.
Yeah.
Because ever since then, they have everybody like goes to different bands that end up being big, or they go off on their own, or there's so new people join the band, and then they get big. Like there's just so much changing and switching from bands back then because they've been around for 40 years, But now I know. Like I said, I knew George Michael. I knew Wham. I didn't know I was going to say the characters in Wham. I'm sorry, I watch TV.
We watch a lot of
in
TV.
Wham. I didn't know like who they were. I knew Wham.
Yeah.
I didn't know who they were.
I didn't know Andrew's name.
I do. Yeah, I would have had to look at that even now after watching the documentary.
Well, I'm on the IMDb page for it. And what's really sad, do you see their top cast? Neither Andrew nor George Michael is listed in the top cast. Who is listed in the top cast, though, is Boy George.
Are you serious?
Yes.
But is that why I was just saying it?
That's not why you were just saying it. Because of the similarities that we talked about earlier. But Boy George doesn't even have a speaking part in it, where all these people who are in the top cast, they only show up for like a moment when they're talking about
I think they just have to be in the cast because they were mentioned.
Well, yeah, it was
shown.
The filming. Yeah, it was when they were doing that "We Are the World" song.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. But it's mostly just Boy George. Don't. Now you got me doing it. It's mostly George Michael and Andrew. What is Andrew's last name? Oh my gosh, they are way down on the list. They're not even listed individually. They're listed as Wham.
See?
They are second to last on the list. Why?
They're not very important in this documentary. Just want to say.
That's so dumb. They should be fighting that.
Bananarama was, though. How do you say that?
They get top billing. That's so bizarre to me. I don't know why this is happening. Andrew Ridgeley.
Yeah.
Was his name. So the synopsis is: through the archival interviews and footage, George Michael and Andrew Ridgeley relive the arc of their Wham career from 70s best buds to 80s pop icons. And actually, there are songs like I know Wham because it was like they're from 1981 is when they came out, I believe. I was not born yet. So it's not, I don't know them because of that. And I think when they stopped, I was only like 3. Yeah, I was 3 when they stopped, when they chose to shut it down. But what was interesting to me was I know a lot of these songs. I did not realize it was Wham. I should have, because George Michael has a very distinct sound, but I didn't realize it was Wham. Like Wake Me Up Before You Go Go. Didn't realize that.
I know. I love like every single song that they were playing. I was like, oh, I love this song.
Yes.
I was like, man, I think Wham plays a lot more of a fact in my life than I realized.
And you can absolutely see their influence in other spheres because, I mean, do you see how George Michael danced? Did it look a little bit like the Carlton?
That was so funny because I realized that too. I completely forgot about it till you just said it. But the thought went through my mind when I was watching this.
Yeah. I mean,
I also love their friendship.
Yes.
I was because so many of these bands were one person would get more famous than the other, which is what happened here.
Mm-hmm.
And then they exploded, not friends anymore, big blowout,
Yeah.
everything. I mean, that happens, I don't even know how many times.
All of the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. I mean, and I get it. But I love how Andrew, and he would come on camera and freely say, like, George Michael is better than me. Like, he
Mm-hmm.
is just better than me, and he deserves to be recognized. And that was just so cool to see
Yeah.
a friend really holding up a friend
Mm-hmm.
rather than getting jealous,
Yeah.
because that doesn't do good for anybody.
Exactly. And I like that he was honest about it, because he even said at one
Mhm.
point, I had to learn to deal with that. And I had to learn that, it's okay. Even though it hurt a little bit, it was okay, because and the reason was because George Michael was so intent on hiding who he was, that in order to hide who he really was, he had to block it out. And the only way to block it out was throw himself into work. Andrew didn't have that same issue. And that's what he acknowledged, was that I wasn't trying to pretend to be anybody else. I was able to fully be me. So I didn't have to overcompensate anywhere else. George Michael did. And there was something George Michael said that I thought was really interesting. I'm going to get the quote wrong. So this is a generalized quote from him. But he said something along the lines of, I used to think that in order to be a success, I needed to be better than Michael Jackson or Madonna or Elton John.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized that's not what success is. They aren't my competition. I just need to be who I am and do what I do.
Absolutely.
And what a profound thing to realize, because that's what that's why, and Andrew even said that was why he was a better songwriter, because he was striving so hard to be better than everybody so no one would look at him the wrong way.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that had to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
And even his dad, oh my gosh, how sweet
Yes.
was that man?
Mm-hmm.
That's what every dad needs to
Yeah.
be.
And he was very open too, because didn't he say at one point that I did not support this and I was a very hard dad. I was not the best dad. He said something along those lines. And
Yep.
I mean, he's admitting this in a documentary. It's going to be shown to millions of people. He's saying this. And then he said that it was George himself who turned him around. And then he was able to say, well done, my boy.
And how proud, I mean, just how proud he is,
Mm-hmm.
which he should be.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it was amazing. I love this documentary.
Yeah, I do too. And that they were friends from the time. And I love that beginning story, the origin story, because George Michael came in very quiet, very shy, very unsure, brand new. And Andrew was the one who was like, hey, let's be friends. And
I love that too. I mean, because it switched during the band. And I love to see that Andrew was more of the open one at the beginning.
Yeah.
That was really cool to see George Michael kind of become
he said
George
he
Michael.
became a character rather than he became George Michael. He became a character of himself, because that was how he pushed himself out.
Mm-hmm.
And like the only things I remember about Wham is I remember joking about them, like, ha, Wham, oh, so great, because I forgot that they sang all these really good songs, apparently. But also, like, there was, when I was in junior high or high school, there was a naughty story about George Michael in a men's bathroom at a public rest stop. And that's what I remember about them. And that's why it's kind of like a jokey thing, because I think he didn't say anything about who he was until after that. And that was when I was born in 83. This came when I was in junior high or high school. He knew in 1982 what he was, and he hid it for well over a decade.
So sad.
Mm-hmm. So this is just who he was trying to be. And so I had this specific image of him in mind. And like the Pamela thing, the image I had in mind was not a shy immigrant guy or shy immigrant boy who came over friendless and had basically only one friend his entire life to support him.
And he needed that support.
Yeah. And even the relationship between Andrew and his girlfriend who joined the band. Like, that was so fun. They stayed friends. They broke up and they stayed really good friends. They did an interview on, I don't know, some talk show. It was Pepsi, who I don't remember what her real name is. And Shirley, what's her name, right? That was Andrew's girlfriend, Shirley. Well, anyway, it was the three of them. It was Andrew, Pepsi.
Sounds familiar.
His ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
The three of them were on an interview together, doing a show together. They were all laughing and talking like they've always been friends. And I mean, it takes a really good person, like you said, to not be jealous of their other friend's success, to still have a great relationship with their ex, to not have any jealousy there, to not be anything wrong with any of that stuff. I mean, he seems like a solid dude. And he even said, I didn't want fame. I didn't want any of this stuff. I just wanted to be in a band with my friend.
Yeah.
That was it.
So, I mean, it was so cool. It was a breath of fresh air. To be honest, I guess that's the best way I can put it. It was a breath of fresh air to see two friends, actual friends, not trying to stab each other behind their backs, not talking bad about each other, just lifting one another up and being friends and protecting your friends. It was
absolutely.
I mean, this documentary pretty much was a friendship documentary.
It was.
And I was here for it and I loved it.
Yeah, there was nothing
good.
This is something I could watch with my kids. There wasn't anything overtly sexual. There wasn't I don't know if there was really any language. If there was, it was very minimal, the kind of language that's in there. Yeah. It was very family. It was very PG in my opinion. And it wasn't about, because when you think of George Michael, you sometimes forget he was in Wham, as you said earlier, you did forget. But you also, like with Pamela Anderson, what you think is the scandal that came later on.
Yeah.
That's what you associate with. So I kind of thought, well, I'm interested in how Wham started, but how did George Michael get to where he was? But they didn't cross that line. It was strictly about two people being there for each other. I like that you said as a friend documentary, because that's exactly what it was. And that's what I liked about it. And anything from the 80s, I mean, you got my vote. It's colorful. It brings back memories, even the filming style of their old interviews. And like, I love Andrew's mom keeping all those scrapbooks was the most precious little thing. I love that.
I love seeing everything from before.
Yeah.
They were famous.
And she even put stuff in there when George was starting to break out on his own. She put some of the stuff in there. So like, even his mom, it's like, I mean, as a parent, it would be easy to be like, oh, well, now my son, you took my son out of this. So now my son doesn't have something to do. It could have been easy for her to do that. But she was like, no, Joe. Oh, I keep wanting to call him Boy George now. Dang it, Amanda.
I'm telling you, it just happens.
But
she was Boy George.
She was encouraged for this boy who she watched grow up with her son. And I mean, he was essentially family to them. They've been friends since they were small kids, and they were now in like their 30s. So it was a great feel-good documentary. I thought it was really fun to watch.
It was clean. I totally agree.
I don't think I have any complaints about it, really.
I don't either.
I'd give it an A as far as documentaries go.
I would agree with you. I don't have any complaints. There's no reason I can't give it an A. I thought it was great. If you like Wham, or you know what?
Even if you don't
like Wham, it was a really good documentary. It opened my eyes. It actually taught me a lot. I learned a lot from this documentary.
Yeah, because I feel like there's a tendency for like pop stars or these people who get to be mega stardom, when they do documentaries and they're included in it, it kind of feels self-righteous. It kind of feels like, oh, look at how great I am. And not once did either George or Andrew ever come off that way in this at all. High marks. Never. I think it was fun. It was short. It was
like a little over an hour.
Yeah. I mean, they were only together for they were together longer than 3 years, but as a popularized band, they were only together for 3 years. So it was if you don't like Wham, it's interesting to see. You get an insider look to how contracts work, how the business works, how they fought to do what they need to do. They worked really hard and I think people don't take Wham seriously, but they worked so hard for everything that they got. And they didn't even get paid for like the first year and a half. They were still living with their parents. So they were hugely popular. They were both living with their parents. So give it a shot. High marks from us.
Yep, absolutely.
As we said, Netflix only recommends documentaries to us now because we were watching documentaries for this. So we have the Pamela Anderson story, which was, a story of someone from the 90s. We have Wham, something from the 80s. We had something that I hated. Don't mean to lump you in that. And now we're going to go another documentary direction. We're going to go to our only docuseries on this list. And it is something that interests, I don't know why it interests me, but it interests both Amanda and I very much. It's the psychology, I think, behind all these things, figuring this stuff out. We're going to talk about Catching Killers, which is 3-season docuseries on Netflix. The most recent season just dropped this year, this season 3.
And it's only 4 episodes.
It is, yeah. Which I was surprised by.
It happens every season, and I'm always like, wait, what? Like,
where's the rest?
4 episodes. Every season I have to go back and be like, okay, no, there was always that's just that's how they do it. I don't understand, because when it comes to true crime documentaries, I love them.
But it's a lot.
Obviously, I do a true crime podcast.
Nefarious Nightmares, by the way, if you guys are looking for a good
Yep, a
true
nefarious
crime
nightmare.
podcast.
Come listen. I don't like all true crime documentaries, and there's a lot. I feel like lately, I feel like they're getting. I don't want to say they're getting too popular. They're not
They
getting
are,
too
though.
popular, but it just. I feel like they're just shooting them out so fast, and
Mhm.
I can't keep up.
Yeah, that's accurate.
I just can't keep up with it unless it's like popping up on my to be watched, or somebody says, "Hey, this is really good. Go watch this."
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to watch it. But Catching Killers, it's only ever 4 episodes, and it's so far it's all cases that I know of,
Mm-hmm.
so I know a little bit of knowledge about them. The first episode on this new season, I'm only going to talk about this new season because
Yeah,
that's
all
all
I'm
I've
gonna talk about
watched
too.
recently. But the first episode on this new season, it has
Real-
the guy who goes on the
Before we
railroad
get into
tracks.
that, let's read the synopsis real quick.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
It's the investigators behind infamous serial killer cases reveal the harrowing, chilling details of their extraordinary efforts in this true crime series. And it's not just based in one area. It's FBI and law enforcement all over the country. So sorry, go ahead.
So the first episode of this is a guy who pretty much uses the railroad system to get around, and he goes in. I'm only going to talk about this first episode for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get into
This is the one I was going to talk about too.
episodes.
So good.
This was actually an episode in Criminal Minds.
Oh, really?
And they redid this entire thing, and it was based off of this episode. That's not this episode, but this case, this individual. And yeah, they did a Criminal Minds episode over it. And so while I was watching it, I had never heard of this guy in real life, and that's
Really
odd for me.
He was in
because
Texas for so long.
He was. I knew of this through Criminal Minds. So while I was watching this, I was going, because I've watched Criminal Minds probably 3-4 times, round and round and round. It's one of my top favorite shows. So I've seen this episode so many times while I was watching this documentary. I was going, what am I watching? Like, what is this based off of? Because I know I had known Criminal Minds does this. They base a lot of their episodes off of real cases, real serial killers, real things. But it was like the first time I was ever watching a documentary and saw a case from Criminal Minds like up on it. So that was kind of cool for me. If you're a Criminal Minds fan, you'll know what episode I'm talking about too, because it was a popular episode.
For me, I'm trying to look at the date that he got. It was 1999. Okay. For me, I remember this story vividly.
Do you really?
Because my parents' house was right on the railroad tracks.
Oh no.
Where? And in right above Wisconsin. And the last place he killed was in Illinois. And so I remember it being on the news, and my parents were like, my dad and my stepmom were like, they would try to turn it when we come in the room. But I was in high school when this happened. And I was a sophomore, I think, in high school when this happened. July 99. Yeah, I was a sophomore. No, I just finished my sophomore year when he was arrested in July of 99. And the news was painting it as if he was traveling up. And we were right, the UP, which is where I lived at the time, it's right on the border of Canada. So everyone kind of suspected he's going up through Canada. And if Illinois was the last place he was at, I'm like, oh my God, we're going to die. We're all going to die. And I would go to sleep at night and have panic attacks, thinking that because my stepmom would sleep out in the living room. Sometimes she fell asleep with the TV, and I had 2 younger sisters in the house with me and my dad. And I would wake up in a cold sweat in these nightmares thinking that this guy had broken into our house and he had bludgeoned my sisters to death. Like, it was, the news did not hold back on what he did to these people. And it was like, I didn't sleep for months on this. Because frequently the train that would go right by our house, it would stop right by our, like the depot wasn't there, but it would stop because it would wait for the depot to let them through. And so all I could think is, like, every time I would wake up in a cold sweat every time I'd hear, because the train would go by at 2 a.m, almost like clockwork. Once a week, 2 a.m, the train would go by our house and it would stop for a half an hour. And I would wake up in a cold sweat every time I would hear the train. So I don't know why I was surprised to see this. No, I didn't. I was so horrified and so terrified when they caught this guy. And it seems now that can look back on it, it seems kind of like silly that I would be afraid of it. But he went from Texas to Illinois and he kept moving up. So that was how the news painted it in our town was he's moving up to Canada. So we all thought he's coming up here. But these he had been doing this for years before he was caught.
Years.
So it
took them a long time to connect.
Yeah.
Because he was going state to state and
and he didn't get notoriety. He didn't get like a thrill. Like he obviously got a thrill. That's why he did it. But he wasn't so like arrogant about it until he started being broadcast on TV as the railroad killer. And then he's like, oh, hey, I got some cred here. And then he started murdering more frequently. And that's why they realized they had a problem, because the murders started happening more frequently, which is why we were panicked in the UP, because we thought, well, if he's just killing as many people as he can before he gets to Canada, we're all screwed.
It was more scary of how comfortable he would get.
Yeah. Oh my, he would
comfortable.
Make food.
He would cook, make food, eat while everybody was just sitting dead around him.
That's nuts.
Like, that to me is beyond a messed up individual.
Yeah.
That and man.
He called his sister and said, I'm just tired. From murdering people across the country?
What are you tired from? Being you?
So like this was the story I connected, and that seems weird to say, but this is the story I connected most with, because this was the one I remembered. Like I bet Eve would connect with the DC sniper story, because she's in that general, or at least she was growing up in that general New Englandish area. And there's the Zodiac killer, the part 2. I actually forgot about that one.
I've never forgotten about the Zodiac killer.
I remember the original one from San Francisco.
Oh,
but I forgot about the second one in New York. That was a completely different dude.
Yeah.
So that was, and how they caught him. I mean, that was nuts. That was just an accident.
I'm trying not to give anything away. That's why it's hard for me to talk. So I'm like, and this happened, and this happened, and I just want to tell everybody what happened. And this true crime, I always like to know. I don't like to know everything before I go into it, because then I don't like to watch it.
Yeah, and honestly,
tell me what happens.
That's part of why I think you and I like the crime so much. It's not because we're fascinated with death and we're fascinated by murder. It's not that. It's the psychology of, like, I had this friend her son was reading Mein Kampf, and it wasn't because he was a Nazi. It wasn't because he was like, Hitler's cool. It was, I want to understand how someone could be so wicked and so evil and do these horrifying things to these people. That's kind of what it is for me. Like, what is your reasoning here? How would you do this? And what I like about Catching Killers is it's not just about in fact, it's very little about getting into the killer's mindset. It's about the people who are doing the catching. It's about how they operate, how that one guy, I don't remember what case it was, but they went to him because he would do cases that involved witchcraft and black magic.
Yeah.
And so how that was something I didn't know was even a division in the police force. So the way they have to work together, and they have to put aside their massive egos to work together to find these people that go across state lines. They have to utilize these sources and resources. They have to be smart. They have to get inside the killer's head to do these things. It was very interesting. Feels like the wrong word, doesn't it? But interesting is the only word I'm coming up with.
The psychology behind it is interesting.
Yeah.
That's, I guess, the good way to say it.
And they're heroes for doing this. I mean,
it's hard. Like, there's a huge thing going on in the true crime world right now. It's ethics. And you have to be ethical when you're talking about true crime and cases, and because
be sensitive to the victims' families.
And that, like me, you will never see me wearing a Ted Bundy shirt. Like, that's one thing I'm completely against. Like, people
Who wears Ted Bundy shirts?
Oh, I see them for sale all the time.
Why?
Dahmer, Ted
Why
Bundy.
Why are you celebrating this guy?
Exactly. And that's the whole thing about true crime and ethics, is because mainly a lot of it is the podcast community who is trying to get this word out of we don't need to celebrate these people. Like, a Nefarious Nightmare never talks about serial killers, because they're just they're put up on this pedestal for some reason.
And it's bizarre.
And I'm like, what? What if a great granddaughter from Ted Bundy victim is walking down the street, and she sees you wearing a Ted Bundy shirt. Oh, he killed my
yeah.
my great aunt.
These
You
aren't
don't
people
know.
who deserve notoriety. These are people who did horrible, awful, wicked things.
Yeah. I mean, should we know about them?
Mm-hmm.
If you're into that, yes. Like I know everything about there is to know about Ted Bundy and the serial killers and everything, but it's not where I
But it's
need to put my focus. I
Yeah,
don't
it's not,
care
and it's not because you want to
about
promote
them.
him.
No.
It's not because you want to tell everybody about what he did. It's because you want to understand. I mean, especially I think as a parent, I think a lot of times for me as a parent, I want to be aware of how these people work because I want to be able to protect my people. Not that I
Yeah.
would be able to do a whole lot if Ted Bundy got a hold of me, but I want to be more prepared to deal with the mentality of wickedness.
Mm-hmm.
So this one, I mean, you know what you're getting when you watch it. Again, documentaries, you should know what you're getting into. They're very clear. There's not like there's a hidden agenda here. It's not like who's gonna do this, who's gonna, like, documentaries are told after something has been completed. It's interesting if you are into true crime, even if you're not really, if you're just into like the psychology aspect, if you're into figuring out why people do what they do or how they operate, check this out. Honestly, for me, I would give this, and again, it just feels weird to be like, oh, I loved this, or oh, I really enjoyed this, because you do feel sad in it, but that's the empathy. If you don't feel sad, then maybe go see a therapist, because this is like intense stuff. There's even one of the officers says, of course, this job is hard. I am no longer married. So if that tells you anything, because these men and women who are involved in these, they are pulled constantly from their families to, like, the DC sniper. They were pulled. He was shooting kids. They left their kids at home to solely focus on this because they did not want him to harm anybody else, certainly not another child. So these people are pulled from their families and they're giving of themselves to this work, to this job. And that's what the job is. And you kind of know that going in, but that doesn't mean it's easy. I mean, if no one did this job, we'd all be screwed, right? So I mean, we need to be thankful. So if you're into the psychology aspect, if you're into law enforcement, if you're into true crime and why people do what they do, check this out. It's got 3 seasons. It's only 12 episodes. It's easy. I mean, it's not easy watch, but it's a fast watch because they're an hour or 45 minutes, something like that per episode.
Yeah, it doesn't take very long.
No, I would give this one an A for me.
I did too. I love catching killers. I always like when new season comes out. So
yeah,
totally giving it an A. And like I said earlier, like that was the whole thing I was trying to make sense of earlier is there are so many documentaries out there, but when a new season of Catching Killers comes out, I always want to watch it. I think it's just the way that they do it and they put it on and they speak.
Yeah,
It doesn't make me feel like slimy watching it.
exactly.
There's some that I watch and I'm like, bro, why are we talking about the killer like this? Like
Exactly.
this is not okay. So I like it. I give it an A.
I feel like in normal true crime stuff, except for there's this Bailey Syrian. I don't know if you guys know who that is. But she does like murder and makeup is what she calls it. And she'll talk about a true crime case as she does her makeup, and she's phenomenal at doing both. I don't know how she does both at the same time. I would stab myself in the eye repeatedly, but she does it great. So she's on YouTube if you want to check her out. But what you see in a lot of normal true crime things is they talk solely about the killer. They talk solely about, and some of them, it gets a little like hero worshipy, like, do we really want to, we should not be putting this killer up here. We should not be giving this killer the notoriety that they want. And what I liked about Catching Killers is it wasn't so much about the killer. It was about the catchers. And it wasn't, even when they found the person, there wasn't a lot of information given about the killer.
We got a lot more about the victims than we did the killer. Exactly. And that's how it should be.
A lot more about the victims and a lot more about the people who brought them to justice. I think that's why I like this show so much, because it was about justice. It wasn't about killing. And I think that's the difference in a lot of true crime documentaries, is it's about the killing rather than the justice.
Yep.
And I'm not into killing. I'm into justice, and I'm into seeing the wicked be brought to righteousness and the wicked be found accountable. That's what I
just want the bad people off the street.
Exactly. And I think this adequately does that. And it was nice to see. I mean, this is going to sound, again, well, I'm making a lot of weird statements tonight, but just, it's fine. This is okay. I like seeing the grown men cry. Like that sounds so weird when I say it out loud and I hear it. But we see these law enforcement people as sometimes the enemy. I don't, but a lot of people see them as the enemy, and they see them as these emotionless robots who just want control. But when you watch them break down and cry over people they did not know dying, that's what it should be about.
Yeah. Nobody kills another person and is happy about it unless you're
A psychopath.
a psychopath. I mean, I see a lot of these videos where cops have to shoot somebody and then they
don't want
completely
to.
break down and they're off the job for a while. They have to go through therapy. That's a lot to take a human life.
It is.
So, I mean, as much hate as there is for cops and law and everything right now, there's good cops and there's bad cops. And I think we need to separate that.
Just
Not
like
every
people.
cop is a bad cop. There are bad
100%.
cops. There are bad cops. And I will fully support that
removal of them.
There needs to be removal. There needs to be change in the police system. But I don't think there should be no cops. I just think the system needs to change.
Yeah. And the ones who are bad cops, they're in the minority. Just like with people, there are good people and there are bad people. The bad people might be louder than the good, but the bad people are in the minority. They're just louder and more aggressive. That's all.
Cops
Same with police officer. Yep. There's good and there's bad. Every person is flawed and broken. It's what you do with that brokenness that sets you apart from the rest, whether in a good way or a bad way. So give this show a shot. These if you have any other documentaries you want us to watch, and honestly, because we're going to be doing these Netflix things, if there are certain shows you want us to review for you before you watch it, let us know what those are. We're set up to, I think next week on our Netflix review, we are bringing you Sweet Magnolia's season 3 recap, because that is coming out soon. I'm so excited. So if you don't know anything about Sweet Magnolias and you're maybe interested, we did a recap for season 1 and season 2, I believe. Certainly season 2. But we also got the opportunity to interview Simone Lockhart, who plays Nellie in Sweet Magnolias, and Logan Allen, who plays Kyle in Sweet Magnolias. And I got to tell you, those two are some of our favorite people on the planet. So we got to talk to them a couple different times. You guys have not seen our 100th episode that was live, but that will be coming out in the midst of all of our new stuff that we have to be doing. We did our 100th episode live a year ago. And we did it live, so we didn't publish it. But now that's going to go in the rotation. So you'll be able to see us talk to them again. We got to talk to them a couple different times.
A lot of different people in that video, not just them two. It was lots of people from The Resident, people from Gilmore Girls, Cruel Summer. We had a ton of people.
Yes, a ton. So that'll come out. But you can check out those interviews while you're waiting for the season 3 premiere. And then season 3 is coming at you next week. And of course, we always have our Cruel Summers on Fridays, our Cruel Summer recaps. There are only 3 more of those coming. After Sweet Magnolias, our next Netflix one will be lifestyle reality shows that we're going to be reviewing for you. So these things are all in the mix coming at you. If there's something you want us to review, or maybe even a subject, say, hey, I want you to review more comedies, or I want you to review these kinds of TV shows, let us know. We will look into that for you. We will watch them and we will review them, so you don't have to watch them if you don't want to. So you can check up on that. And you can also look into our Netflix group on Facebook, which is Netflix Family Fan Club. Go on there. You can tell us in there what you want us to watch. So if you want to catch up with us, you can catch us on any of our social medias under Fandom Family Chats. You can also find us on our email. It's familyfanclub2021@gmail.com. Find us there. Let us know what you want to hear from us in the coming months and months and months without TV. We would love to. Yes. And do not forget to subscribe. When you subscribe, that's how we get some credibility as a real channel, as a podcast. So subscribe on YouTube and on wherever you listen to your podcast. Subscribe and rate us on there. The more credibility we get, we'll be able to get some interviews right off the bat. Unfortunately, we did get some people who were going to come on for an interview and agreed to be in an interview with us. A few different people, actually. But with the SAG strike, we have to postpone those. So continue subscribing. So when this is all said and done, we can get some interviews for you, get you the content you want. So we will see you on Friday for another Cruel Summer breakdown, and next Wednesday for a Sweet Magnolias breakdown. We'll see you real soon. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Loving our content? Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to share our podcast with your family and friends. We want to continue the conversation with you. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok under Fandom Family Chats, or one of our ever-growing Facebook groups by searching Family Fan Club. We've also launched a website. Family Fan Club 2021 at wixsite.com. You can email us there and keep checking it for announcements and merch coming soon. And of course, be sure to tune in every week for new episodes discussing all your favorite shows.